Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. It is night six. Wow, we have already passed the halfway mark. It's night six in our series, Unchained Hope and Healing from Addiction. I'm your host, Pastor Richie Halversen. I just want to thank you all for being here, but I'm also joined with my new friend, Danny Riggs. Please say hi to everyone, Danny.
Hey everybody, how are y'all doing?
Oh, from the comments, everyone is doing very, very well. Very, very well. I just want to take a moment right here to welcome everyone. I see that we have others from Stone Mountain is here. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Good evening, good evening. So many. Also, Danny, you might recognize this individual. This person is saying they're glad to be here tonight to hear your
Yeah, she
story.
told me that she was going to be watching, so I didn't know that they was going to have the chat portion. But
Oh, yes.
all of my sisters, I didn't realize that. I thought this might have been through the other church. I didn't know it was Grandview. So,
Oh,
oh
yes.
my gosh, all the history with Grandview and my other sisters and all of my nieces and nephews and
Oh yes, it's a family affair. It's a family affair. Everyone is here, and I do want to take this time to just welcome everyone. Richie's here. Yes, yes, yes. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Everyone that's here. We just want to say thank you for spending the time. Thank you for journeying with me. It's been 6 days. We have four more to go, right? And we're just having fun. We're just having lots and lots of fun here this evening. And I do want to take some time to acknowledge all the various churches that are praying. We have all those prayer warriors, as they will call them, right? There are prayer teams that they've formed that each and every evening, today, even on night six, they're still gathering together and they've been praying. They've actually started praying from 7 o'clock, and now it is way past, it's 7:37, and you're continuing to pray. And because you're praying for others to be unchained. They're praying for the viewers, they're praying for listeners, that anyone that comes across this program, that they will be blessed by the message, they'll be blessed by the testimony that is shared. So, do you want to take a moment to just remind everyone, if you haven't already, please take a moment to register. Take a moment to register. The website address is on your screen. Now, I do want to ask this question. If tonight is your very first time joining and logging on to listen to this program, I'd like for you to share it right there in the comments. Let everyone know this is my first time. Just say this is my first time. Just say hi, because we want to make sure that you feel welcome. And if you have any questions, please let us know. All right. So if it's your first time, please let us know. We would love to highlight. We would love to welcome you here with us. All right. Listen, Danny, the folks, they're loving you already. They're loving you already. They're already saying welcome, and they're excited to hear your story. All right. So this evening we're going to be hearing Danny's story. After Danny shares a story, we're going to have a message from Pastor Richie Halversen. After the message, we'll join back with Danny, and then we'll have a live Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to share it there in the chat area, and we will acknowledge it. So, are you ready, Danny?
I'm ready.
All right. So let's jump right in. Danny, I would love to hear. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What's your background? Where are you from?
Well, I'm 67. I'm a baby of the family, spoiled rotten from three sisters.
You said the
Uh,
baby in the family.
yeah, kind of. But I don't know. I consider myself kind of the black sheep of the family, always the troublemaker, getting into
Okay.
dabbling into this or that. So seemed like my fall down or go to was alcohol, and
Mm,
started early and worked my way all the way up through the later portion of my life. And by the time I hit 57, I get a DUI that's a pretty nasty one, and it was pretty much life changing. So 2013, Christmas 21st, the 21st of December,
yeah.
2013 was my last alcohol. So I've been sober going on 10 years this Christmas.
Did everyone hear that? 10 years, a whole decade. Come on. We need to
So
celebrate that. That's
that's a
awesome.
blessing, and I didn't really realize how much time and money
Yeah.
I had wasted
Mm,
that I could have used for other purposes or God's intent or family life or all of that was second to me and my addiction. So
wow.
the the time lost and the money lost is of great sorrow, but the future looks bright.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I want to pause here for a moment because you stated that you're 67 years young, right? I love that. Still a very, very young man. I don't consider anyone old until you pass 100. So you're still very young, right? And you're the baby of the family. And you also stated that you started out young, and it wasn't until in your 50s. It wasn't
Yeah.
until your 50s where you had a breakthrough moment. Now, when you said you start out young, how young are we talking about?
16 with buying wine and beer and messing around with marijuana and stuff like that.
Mm, so wow, I'm noticing a trend here. So you said so start out with marijuana. So that was kind of like the gateway and it led you to alcohol.
Well, or probably the alcohol more before the other.
Mm, okay. So from your teenage years all the way up until you're fit, that's a long time.
Yeah, that's the 60s and the 70s. Elementary school, middle school, high school, graduated in 74. So
Wow, wow.
that was during the era. Everything was available, and
Mm. So that was kind of like the lifestyle.
yeah, that was pretty much the surroundings and easy to get wrapped up into.
All right. Now you mentioned that this started to affect your family life, and you said it's afterwards, as you reflect on it, you start to see, wow, how much money that you actually put. Now describe that a little bit. Tell me a little bit about that experience. How was that?
Um, which particular part are you wanting me to define there?
Um, well,
The money,
it's up
the
to
amount of
you.
money.
How destructive was this addiction for you?
Well, I mean, if you're working and providing an income and drinking and a functional alcoholic, basically,
Mm,
then things can go on. Kids can be raised, and the mom's there, and the babysitters or whatever, school, buses, all kind of things. So I wasn't as present as I should have been.
mm,
So the investment in the children's lives, really uh, let me know that I could have done a lot more. But because I was self-centered and cared about my own impulses, then that part of their lives and mine both are lacking. But
yeah.
that's water under the bridge, and we've all healed and gone through things over the last decade. So yeah.
Wow. So your addiction had generational consequences. As you reflect on it, you saw how your children suffered because of this.
Yeah, and they wonder if they've got the same gene or the same tendencies, or I mean, people in general have
Yeah.
some some form of the seven deadly sins, whether it's gluttony or abuse or there's all of the seven sins. So it's just a character naturalization that is into us that we have to kind of overcome every day. Have to start fresh with
Mm,
something every day new. So I don't want to dwell too much on the past, but everything is. You were talking about financially drained. The
yeah.
you can you see all of this wood?
Yeah.
This has all been bought since 2016. I remodeled a 1911 farmhouse on the money that I probably would have spent drinking,
Wow.
and I've got a lot of money wrapped up in wood and rebuilding the thing. So
All
uh,
right. So as you share, like, listen, man, this had generational consequences. You reflect over your life and your family, your children. Now, tell me, when did you have? Because you mentioned, yes, it's been 10 years that you've been sober, right? So we're praising God along with you. But what was it that caused the breakthrough? What finally broke the chain?
uh, Well, I'm going to be completely open and honest with everybody. I mean, we're all here to be honest and to bear our hearts, right? So
Right.
I'd gotten a couple of DUIs, and they were slap on the wrist. I paid a fine, went to Celebrate Recovery, got license back, got a little probation. And it wasn't so much that I drank all the time. It was just that whenever I was drinking, I was driving. So I
Mm.
got a third DUI over the span of this lifetime. And in Texas, that's considered a felony. So that's a
Okay.
whole different ball game in that span from, um, I don't want to do the math, to, when I was 16 to 50 years ago,
Yeah.
52 years ago to 10 years ago. So like for a 40-year span, that
Wow.
third DUI just wrecked everything. I'm a veteran, so losing a firearm right and losing a right to vote because of the felony charge because of alcohol is ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
And that was my turning point.
So you lost your lost your ability to have a licensed firearm. You lost your driver's license as well.
My right to vote.
Right to vote. Wow. So you lost your right to vote, and did you end up having to do any prison time because of this?
Um, Even on this last one, I've been so blessed my entire life, Pastor, that somebody offered a plea deal on a charge that they were, because of the felony, they were pretty serious throwing the book at people. And we pled not guilty all the way through about 18 months worth of continuations because they weren't ready. And somebody offered a plea deal. The charge that they wanted was a 2 to 10 year sentence, depending on what the jury found out in the trial.
Wow.
That's a serve two minimum to 10 year for the charge. So somebody offered me through tremendous prayers from some of the people in your audience. I found favor with the court system, and we had a plea for me to take a 10-year suspended sentence if I pled guilty to a felony DUI.
Wow.
And they wanted me to serve 10 days and 7 years of probation. So the probation was tough.
Hmm.
But the week of incarceration, because I got stopped before midnight and let out by 7, so I was in there for 6 or 7 hours, and that counted as 2 days. I spent 8 days at vacation time, came out,
Wow.
had a pistol in the truck, picked my pistol and the truck both up from impound, and drove home
Wow.
on my Georgia driver's license. So it took a while for everything to shake out, but that the charges that I was facing and the shown the favor, like $600 with the court cost, $2,500 on a lawyer. Got to a plea deal, took the felony, spent the 7 years on probation, um, and was blessed with only having to serve 8 days of a 10-year
Wow.
possible sentence.
Wow. Excuse me. Wow. That's amazing. Only what, 7 to 8 days of actual jail time and
Yeah.
7 years of probation. Talk about favor. Wow. Praise. I have to give God all the praise for that one, because like someone says, yes, only God, right?
Yeah.
God was with you even in the midst of you messing up, even in the midst of you having multiple DUIs. God's favor was still there. God's grace was still there for you. Wow.
Well,
So,
my mom,
yeah, your mom. Come on
my
now.
first name's after my dad, George, and then my middle name is Daniel. And I was prayed over because I was the last born after some serious medical issues with my mom. And then dad always wanted a son. So I'm born 8 years after Becky Gardner and 10 years after Pat. And
Wow.
it's 12 years from Linda Edwards.
Wow. So you're
Even
really the
the
baby.
women in my family, right? And my mom, four remarkable women. prayed for me constantly, and that's where the blessings and the anointing come from.
Wow. Well, listen, I'm praising God. I see a question here that says, during your probation, are you not allowed to drink during those 7 years?
During my probation in the state of Texas, the court ordered me to not possess alcohol for
Mm,
the entire term of probation.
wow. So was that the catalyst that really helped you in your recovery?
I quit 18 months prior to going to court to be sentenced.
Okay. And now so that was kind of like the start of it. And so now you've been 10 years sober,
Almost.
right? Yes, getting
When I
there.
wake up December 22nd, 2024 or
Hmm.
23, it will be 10 years to the date that I walked away from the taste of alcohol 100% with no cravings.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Now now I see, yes, a family member is actually telling you on you right now. This says so what, there was something about a breathalyzer. What
Oh,
happened with that?
which one? Right?
Oh, which one? Oh, so there've been multiple. Oh, don't leave it out now.
No, y'all want the dirt, huh? All right. So
Yes.
I've got a Georgia driver's license. I've
All
never
right.
lived in Texas. We have an office in Texas that I was going to. I got pulled over by city police in the county where we have an office. They assume that I've got a Texas license. I show them my license.
Mm.
Um, they tried to suspend my Texas license that I didn't have. They revoked my Georgia license because I didn't have an interlock on my Texas license for an interlock device on my vehicle in the state of Texas.
Yes.
And they told me that I couldn't come back to Georgia until Georgia accepted me for probation.
Oh
So
wow.
I'm having to be a Bedouin. I travel for work anyway, but I'm going from hotel to hotel with email travel permits every 30 days from Texas. But I can't come back to Georgia until they accept me.
Wow.
And then, so it's been a roller coaster. But without the desire for the taste of it, now I'll drink maybe a Heineken 00 or something like that with a Mexican meal or something. But friends of mine say, "Isn't that a trigger?" And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
"Oh no," because the stuff that's got alcohol in it will make a fool out of you, and you'll just
Mm.
the influence. If you indulge in the influence, eventually it's the smaller foxes that spoil the vines.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Listen, I just want to thank you for sharing, and we're celebrating with you. 10 years. 10 years. 10 years. We're looking
Coming
forward
up,
to that.
yeah,
We're looking
coming
forward
up.
to that. Right? And this has been a long journey. A long journey. And it's interesting to even hear the interplay between, because you're in one state when you got caught and messed up, that it's almost like both states rejected you, and you're caught in limbo
Yeah,
there for a bit.
Texas was the supervising authority because I'd been caught in the county, and I don't even know why they thought that I had a Texas license or any of that stuff. I only had one ID,
Mm,
and
wow.
everything, on all of my citations and things, and everything, all the court documents that had Georgia driver's license number on it. So,
Okay. So
but
let me
she
ask
was.
you this
But
question.
talking about the breathalyzers, I had
Yeah.
one before I could leave the state of Texas. The day that I stopped in the adult supervision, they called a guy over and gave me one of the police models that was called a Sober Link 2. So you had a little short straw in it, just like the rubber coated, like the police give you on the side of the road to use. Had to blow on that, and then every time I'd get a text that I had a window like 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon, and then like a 2 hour window at night. So I had to do a breath sample, and it took a picture and a GPS location device like a LoJack within about a 75-foot circle, and emailed it to the Texas probation office where I was at facial recognition, and a blood sample. So
Wow.
I had to have that for 7 years. Then I had to have an interlock. That's in case I rented a car. They wanted to make sure I wasn't driving on a car that, So then any vehicles that I had tagged in my name had to
Yeah.
have a similar ignition interlock device that you had to blow in every 30 minutes to keep the car running.
Every 30 minutes?
Yeah. So you're supposed to pull over. Like I'm
Wow.
going from here to Houston. I'm supposed to pull over, but it's on a retractable thing, and it looks right at you. So I line it up, looking down the highway and the steering wheel, and blow a sample and hang the thing up. So we
Wow.
got routine because I've got one in a truck and one in a little HHR survey vehicle that I use. So that's 3 devices. The little black one that they gave me was $170 a month or something like that for 7 years.
Wow. Wow.
And then the ignition interlocks were $75 a piece for the camera a month. So it's almost $400 in interlocks.
Wow. So this
Anybody
is
wanted to move my car had to blow on it and have their picture taken to crank it.
wow. This is a lot. I've never heard of this stuff. This
Yeah.
is wow. So for 7 years you had to put up with this. You
Yeah.
had interlock, you had to breathe through the breathalyzer in order to keep the ignition going, all these
Travel
different
permits
things.
through the probation department to leave the state.
Wow. Wow. This I've never heard of this.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
pretty tough lockdown.
Yeah. Now, listen, we're going to take a break. We're going to take a break right here. And I love, because I know we're going to have questions. I know I have questions because you endured this for 7 years, and I'm glad to know you came out on the other side. But this just goes to show that it's truly right, and our addictions really put us in chains, really bind us
Absolutely.
in various ways, right? But we're going to continue this conversation in a moment. But at this time, I want to get everyone ready because Richie Halversen, he has a message to share. And it's a message of encouragement as we're still journeying along, as we're learning about how to live unchained. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Unchained, Hope and Healing from Addiction. The only way I was able to break through the chain that held me back was when I finally was willing to admit, you know what, I don't have all the answers. What I was doing wasn't working. And so I had to start listening to other people who knew things that I didn't know. I knew how to get high, but I didn't know how to get clean. I had to take the cotton out of my ears and I had to put it in my mouth. I remember I had someone at a meeting who told me very quickly early on, I was talking a lot because I had read a lot and I thought I knew a lot. And one of these old timers, is what we called them, told me, Richie, shut up, take the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth. You see, I had to be willing to learn something new from someone else. I had to stop acting like I was charged. I needed someone bigger, better, smarter, stronger than me to be in charge. In the book of Mark 5:22, we have an interesting story of someone who was used to being in charge. Jairus was one of the synagogue presidents, it says. He was used to being the leader. He was used to doing all the talking. But if you want to live an unchained life, you have to be willing to let someone else be in charge. You've got to be willing to listen to someone else sometime. In Mark 5:23, Jairus comes up to Jesus. He says, my little daughter is at the point of death. Come, lay hands on her so that she may be made well and live. So check this out. Jairus is telling Jesus how to heal his daughter. But Jairus doesn't know how to heal people. Jairus doesn't know how to perform miracles. Just like I didn't know how to stay clean, Jairus doesn't know what he's talking about. So in Mark 5:22, when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. So he's kneeling. He seems to be kind of praying. He's open to the eye of giving up control. But the very next verse, he starts ordering Jesus around. Have you ever used prayer to try to order God around? Have you ever tried to tell someone else what they need to be doing in their life? In recovery, we say, don't give advice. You know, advice kills. We only share experience, strength, and hope. People don't need advice. They need to hear that you got through something, and they need to hear hope of how they can get through something. We got to be willing to listen to someone else. What does Jairus know about healing? What do you know about living unchained? Before Jesus can give Jairus what he's asking for, Jairus has to let go of the control and give it over to God. Now compare Jairus' request to this centurion who also is asking Jesus to heal someone. Luke 7:7 and 8. It says, I did not presume to come to you, but say the word, Jesus, and let my servant be healed. For I too am a man set under authority with soldiers under me, and I say to one, go, and they go, and to another, come, and they come, and to my servant, do this, and he does it. The centurion was a good leader because, you see, he knew how to be led. Before you can ever lead, you got to first learn how to be led. In spite of Jairus, Jesus still goes with him. Man, I am so glad in spite of some of the dumb things that I've said, I've had good friends who've still been willing to go with me. In spite of our problems, our big egos, in spite of the incessant fighting and debating, Jesus still goes. Instead of telling Jairus, Jesus is going to show Jairus. Some of us, we only learn by being shown. We can't take someone's word for it. We've got to experience the pain for ourselves. Mark 5:25, there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years. So here we have another character come into the scene. On the way to Jairus' house, something is getting in the way of Jairus' plan. Man, we hate it when things get in the way of our plans, don't we? But sometimes interruptions are interventions. Sometimes the thing that we think is getting in the way is actually the best possible thing that could happen for us. Man, I can see Jairus pushing Jesus with one hand, you know, come on, Jesus, I got to get you going where I'm going, and he's batting people away with the other hand. Jesus is in a hurry, and it seems like Jesus is taking his time. I wonder, has God ever seemed to take his time in your life? Maybe he's trying to teach you something. Maybe he's trying to show you something. And so this woman in Mark 5:28, she says, if I can just touch his robe, I will be healed. The Greek word for healed means rescued. You see, God wants to rescue you from what's killing you. God wants to rescue you from whatever is draining you. In Mark 5:26, this woman had suffered much under many physicians. She had spent all she had and was no better. Rather, she grew worse. So think about it. She had tried all kinds of things. I know for me, man, I had tried all kinds of things to quit using opioids. I tried a lot of things to quit all kinds of addictions and to live an unchained life. This woman has tried all kinds of things, but instead of it getting better, it's only growing worse. She had plenty of people's opinions. She had plenty of treatment options. Her purse was full of prescriptions, but she's still bleeding. She's still not enjoying life. Think of all the stuff this woman had to push through to get to Jesus. Man, she had to push through the people telling her it was all in her head. She had to push through all the people who said, you know what, once an addict, always an addict. She had to push through all the critics and the naysayers and the haters. She had to push past the internal voice that says, you're always going to be this way. You're a mess up. You will never live an unchained life. She had to push past the toxic voices in her life. If I can just reach out and touch him, I'll be healed. If I can just tap into something stronger than me. And so she comes up behind him in the crowd. She touches his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. Check it out. Jesus was able to stop the bleeding no one else could stop. Jesus could fix a problem no one else could fix. You see, we cannot fix our own problem because we are a part of the problem. If we want to live an unchained life, we've got to tap into something stronger than we are. I can't, he can. I think I'll let him. And Jesus realized at once that the healing power had gone out of him. And so he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?" And the disciples are like, "Well, what? I mean, Jesus, you see this crowd crushing you and you ask who touched me?" But check this out. Jesus knows the difference between someone putting their hands on him to push him or a need that pulls him. And this is why I believe when something pulled at him, instead of pushing him, it changed his direction. You see, that's what separated the woman from Jairus. You see, the woman's need pulled Jesus. Jairus was trying to push Jesus. In John 10:18, Jesus says, "Look, no one takes my life from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again." You see, friends, it wasn't the push that put Jesus on the cross. It was his love for us that pulled him there. Stop letting people and problems push you around. Stop letting addiction push you around. Stop letting other people decide what is best for your life. Stop chaining yourself to that toxic relationship. Stop letting them push you and let God pull you into your purpose. Man, in the massive crowd, Jesus can discern one touch. God can feel your loneliness in a crowded room. He can see your brokenness in a broken world. He knows what's draining us, and if we would just reach out and touch him, he'll stop the bleeding. And so Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Meanwhile, I imagine Jairus just kind of looking at his watch. "What are you doing, Jesus? Man, I've got something to do. I'm important." This woman had a bleeding problem, which meant, according to that custom, that Jewish custom, she would have been ceremonially unclean. She was unclean. She shouldn't touch Jesus. No doubt, Jairus, being a president of the synagogue, "Hey, you don't have time to mess with that unclean person. I'm important." The woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling, and she fell down before him and told him the whole truth. Check it out. It says the whole truth. Remember, Jairus is in a hurry. The Greek word for whole truth means everything. She tells Jesus everything, every detail. She's been sick for 12 years. She tells the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. She tells Jesus every detail. Jairus is tapping his foot, but you see, Jesus will not be pushed around. And while this woman is testifying, Jairus' daughter is dying. "I don't have time for this," he probably thought. But you know what? I've discovered in life, it's not all about me. It's not all about what I want. At the core of addiction is selfishness. It's not all about you. It's not all about me. You know, sometimes we act like we're the only people with problems. Sometimes we act like we're the only ones that need help. You know, my sponsor once told me in recovery, he said, "Richie, I know it may look like the sun rises and sets over your head, but you are not the center of the universe." You see, Jesus is going to deal with Jairus' problem, but he's going to deal with this woman's problem along the way. Jesus is on his way to deal with your problem, but one of the ways he's going to deal with your problem is by dealing with someone else's problem along the way, because your greatest problem is not what you think it is. Your greatest problem, my greatest problem, it's me. And nothing gets me out of me quicker than helping someone else. And we're going to talk about this more in session 9. But to God, no one is more important than anyone else. I don't care the person living up under the bridge or the person in the house with a 5-car garage. No one's more important than anyone else. No one's problems is more important than anyone else. The nameless, unclean Gentile woman is just as important to Jesus as the famous Jewish male leader. You know, too often, like Jairus, we want to tell God what he's going to do, how he's going to do it, and when he's going to do it. But that doesn't work. That's a part of the problem. We're trying to be God instead of letting God be God. Before Jesus can heal his daughter, Jesus has to heal Jairus. Mark 5:35, as he said this, some people arrived from the synagogue, the president's house. Your daughter is dead, they said. Why bother the teacher anymore? And so that small glimmer of hope leaves Jairus' eyes. In that moment, he realizes just how small he really is. And that, my friends, is when Jesus can really help him. Sometimes we've got to get knocked off our high horse. Sometimes, we've got to just hit that bottom. Sometimes we've got to fall down for God to finally be able to get through to us. Mark 5:36. But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, do not fear, only believe. Interestingly, the Greek word for overhearing means refused to listen or ignore. Check that out. Jesus ignores what the people say. He looks right into Jairus' hopeless eyes and he says, do not fear, only believe. I don't care what anybody else thinks. God is ignoring the skeptics. He's ignoring the critics, and he's looking at you. Do not fear, only believe. They're not in charge. I am. So the moment we stop limiting God by what we can do, we can start seeing what God can do. 1 Corinthians 2:9 says, no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the heart of man imagined what God has prepared for those who love him. Ephesians 3:20 says, God is capable of doing far, far more than we could ever ask or imagine. You see, Jairus came to Jesus for healing, but Jesus was planning something better. Jesus wasn't just planning on a healing. Jesus was planning a resurrection. Man, God's plans for us are always bigger than our plans for us. God's idea for an unchained life, living freely and abundantly, is always bigger. When my first year clean, my sponsor told me to write down all the things I wanted to see, all my plans and goals for living my first year clean. He says, Richie, write down everything that you want to see happen, and I promise you, God's going to blow your expectations to smithereens. Because to be honest, I just wanted to hold a job. I just wanted to get a job. I just didn't want to go away to prison. I started making that list. In a year, when I hit that year mark, man, not only did I have a job, I had my family back. I had my relationships started flourishing again. I started serving in my community. I got so many more things. God's plans for you are always bigger than your plans for you. Mark 5:38, they came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and Jesus saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had entered, he said to them, why are you making a commotion and weeping? The child's not dead, but sleeping. And check it out, they laughed at him. Has anyone ever laughed at you? When the scoffers come between Jesus and his miracle, it says that he kicked them out. Whatever is coming between you and your miracle, let God kick it out. Verse 40 says, he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. In ancient Israel, they actually hired mourners, which means many of these people mourning weren't really upset. They were paid to be upset. And that's why they go from crying one moment to laughing the next. You know, there are people in your life who will go from patting you on the back one moment to stabbing you in the back the next moment. And look, I believe in being kind to everyone, but my inner circle is saved for those who want to see God do a miracle. My inner circle, the people that I'm going to spend the most time with, are going to be the people that want to see me succeed, that believe in me. It's time to kick all the fake, pretentious people out of your life because they are coming between you and your miracle. Jairus and his wife are totally overwhelmed by grief. They still can't believe that their little girl is gone. But then she encounters Christ, and they find out that death is nothing more than a sleep when it comes to God. Mark 10:27 says, all things are possible with God. Where there is Jesus, there is always a way. Don't ask for a little help. You need more than a little help. All of us do. We don't need help. We need the hand of God to change us, to free us. Mark 5:41, taking her by the hand, he said to her, Talitha kum, which means, little girl, get up. Man, Jesus is saying the same thing to everyone who's watching right now. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to get up. Both the bleeding woman and the girl were ceremonially unclean. One was dead, one had a disease. Touch was forbidden, but Jesus reaches out and touches them both. Because you see, until you have an encounter with something stronger than you, then you'll never have that fuller, freer life. The girl lived for 12 years. Think about that. The woman suffered for 12 years. So the beginning of suffering and the beginning of life happened at the same time. When the woman's suffering started, it was the beginning of life for the girl. You see, friends, Christ's suffering was the beginning of our new life. Because he went into the tomb, you and I can come out of the tomb. In order to stop our bleeding, God was willing to come in the flesh and bleed. You want to know what a real leader looks like? You want to know someone you can really trust with your life? Luke 9:51 says, when the days drew near for him to be taken, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. The same hand that healed the woman, the same hand that raised the girl, can touch your life right now, today. Jairus thought he needed Jesus just for his daughter. Maybe you're watching this because you think this is for someone else. We always tend to think in that way, well, I don't struggle with addiction. No. Just as Jairus thought he needed Jesus for his daughter, Jesus had to show Jairus that he needed Jesus just as much. Man, people struggling with addiction aren't the only ones who need to practice these principles. All of us do. You see, Jairus' daughter was not the only one who came back to life that day. So did Jairus. Let God lead your life. Let God be in charge. Stop acting like you know everything. Let someone who knows what they're doing help you, guide you. Stop shortchanging living an unchained life. Allow that chain of ego and pride and self-obsession and control get broken by the breakthrough of humility today. I don't have to control everything. I don't have to have all the answers anymore. The day I started listening and learning is the day I started living an unchained life. God wants the same thing for you right now.
Wow. Wow, that was a powerful, powerful message. I just want to take a moment for us to reflect on what Pastor Richie Halversen just shared with us. Jairus thought he needed Jesus for his daughter, but Jesus had to let him see and let him realize that he needed Jesus as well. He needed to be changed. He needed to be transformed. Message is, all of us need Jesus, not just those that are willing to say, I have an addiction. All of us, as a matter of fact, all of us have an addiction that we often overlook. We often mislabel selfishness. Selfishness. But Danny is here. We're about to have our Q&A time. If you have been blessed by the message that Richie Halversen shared, please, right there in the comments, we're gonna be praying here in a moment. I just feel impressed that I need to pray for someone, pray for all of us, actually. So I'm going to ask for us to pause for a moment. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we have heard your message. It's a very powerful, striking one, and it hits right at the core of who we are. We're yours. We're your children, and we need to be touched by you. Oh, Father, thank you for your grace. Thank you for your mercy and your love towards us. Transform us, oh Father, and especially break our chain of selfishness. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Oh, Brother Danny, yes, your mic is still muted there. Just want to let you know. Oh, there we go. All right. So it's our Q&A time. And for those that were here earlier and heard Danny share his message, it is now your moment. You can ask a few questions just before we close out. So within these 10 minutes here, we're going to try to take as many questions as we can just before we end right on time at 8:30. So do want to go back a little bit. Danny, you shared your story of what you've been through. You've been through a lot, right? Now, you stated that you lost quite a bit. And I saw one question that was shared here in the comments. It asks, so do you now have your voting rights?
No, I mean they can be reinstated, but I haven't tried to register or anything. Once I went to get my license renewed, and the lady asked me if I wanted voter registration, and I said no. She said, "Well, it's free," and I said, "No, I don't want it." And she did it anyway, and I got a nasty letter. So I haven't tried to pursue it. I don't know that there's anybody really worth voting for right now, anyway. So, I mean, that'd be a whole nother call.
Yes, I definitely understand.
Blushed up on that one.
All right. All right. I see another question here coming in. It says, how has your experience and freedom from your chains strengthened your faith and walk with Christ?
Well, I'd always been blessed and received honor and everything. So it was just as easy to let go of what's in one hand and turn to the other, because I was raised by a mother and father in a Southern Baptist church. And then when my sisters started dating, they found Grandview and started going there. So
Yes.
I've got a lot of prayers on both sides, especially some of the more rock solid older women that were in my sisters' lives when they first, in the 60s and 70s in Grandview. I mean, that was
Yes.
just that was the facility, where everything was happening, and
Okay.
we all kind of fit in there. So I've got a lot of fond memories about that. But I don't know where I got sidetracked on that, but
Yeah, but so basically, your family, so the family core, sisters and loved ones, and them having so strong faith, they help to build up your faith in Christ along the way.
well, that and I mean, I've got Thompson Chain Bibles and reference libraries and stuff like that my sisters have given me, and books
Okay.
and things. So I mean, I've rededicated my life
Yeah.
several different times. I mean, you get down and you get bogged in, and it always seemed like a temporary fix or whatever. That I listen to a variety of music right now. Jelly Roll has got some kind of country rap out that says, "God, I only call you when I need a miracle, and I need a miracle now." And it's a real soulful thing. He's talking about he needs a miracle for his wife or whatever, but we have a tendency to only go to Christ when we need something,
Mercy.
rather than mourning and throughout the day and meditation and that kind of stuff. So it's getting into a routine of wherever it's. I've worked multiple schedules. Retired in August, but I still work full time and
Okay.
got the benefits of that. But I work days and nights, so
Yes.
every time I eat, I say a prayer. So in the morning, sometime during the day, I'm going to spend some time. I'm going to try to get my 2.4 hours out of that 24 sometime to give 10% of that back to God for him blessing me that
Yes.
my entire life. But I just try to take everything realistically and realize that it's forward. Everything is forward. It's a new beginning like I've done in the past, but this time really seems like it's going to stick.
Okay.
On my focus toward
Yes.
being more in tune with the universe and the Creator and my fellow man and my tribes.
All right. I love what you share there. Given that 2.4, right? That
Yeah,
a tithing
that's
of your time.
I mean, that's a minimum, right?
Yeah, right. So you're very intentional on continuing, right? Now I
Yeah,
see all right, so we have several questions coming in here. So we're going to try to keep the answers short so we can get to as many of them as possible. It says, how was your family affected by your addiction?
yeah. I just saw that when I was going to reply to it.
Yeah.
Uh, Mostly school life and the children. I wasn't home for that, or didn't help with homework, or I'm
Mm,
getting in about the time their bedtimes and that kind of stuff. So I was present but not present. So the love and the bond, they loved me and they looked around or over or beyond, to get the parental love and that kind of stuff. But later in life, the bond is that everybody sets boundaries. So maybe a different play out on the roles would have
mm,
improved a relationship. It's
yeah.
hard for us all to get together at one time, and I'm more family function. Let's have a family reunion of the close family once or twice a year to get everybody on the same calendar and schedule is hectic, but I think that's true with everybody too.
True, true.
But I feel like I'm trying to kind of make up for lost time in the past of
Yeah.
what I feel I slighted them on by trying to provide to build towards something. I've always wanted to build something to leave my dependents, whether it be a home or an estate or insurance or something where they don't have to struggle as much as I did. But I also wanted to give them the wisdom and try to steer them in the right direction.
Understood. Understood. All right. I see. All right. I'm gonna try to take these last two questions here. This one, it says, were there people that you had to remove, people in your circle that you had to walk away from?
Well, yeah, if you're going to change your habits, the old added stuff, you get all of these slogans from whatever alcohol group or dependency group of anything, narcotics, anonymous or whatever. If you're going to change your habits, you've
Hmm.
got to change your playgrounds. You got to
Mm,
change your friends. You can't go to the same place and play with the same people that you played with, the
yeah.
same games that you played in the playground that got you where you were at. If you're going to leave addictions, you got to find a new playground, a gym, or um, a men's retreat, or you got to find another playground and more
So
friends.
true.
So the ones that accept your change and are willing to support you and love you and been praying for you anyway are going to continue to support you. And the people that can't understand what changes you're making, you really don't need them anyway.
That is so
But
true.
you'll really, if you self-examine your relationship with them, you're probably the giver and they're probably the taker anyway. And it means
Mm,
they're going to get less from you. They'll fall off like fleas or whatever.
yes. I love what you shared there. Listen, we have to leave that playground. Have to leave the playground, right? You're living with an unchained lifestyle, so you have to do it in a different place, right? With different
Right.
people. So listen, I just want to thank you, with Danny, for sharing. I really really appreciate all that you've shared, and man, I can tell that you're a ball of wisdom. I wish I could keep going because there's so much I would love to ask you, but we're almost out of time here for this evening. But just before we go, I just want to remind everyone, please, if you've been blessed by tonight's message, please don't forget to subscribe, to like, to share. We want to share this message out. So if you're on Facebook, please, we want to get this shared out as much as possible. If you're on YouTube, share it, like it. Also subscribe to our channel, okay? But just before you go, I do want to announce tonight's winner. Our winner for tonight is Mildred Reed. Sister Mildred Reed is our winner for tonight. Sister Mildred, everyone, please let her know. Congratulations. I just want to thank you, Sister Mildred, for joining on, for signing up, for registering, and for being here tonight. You are our winner. We're going to be reaching out to you to send you a copy of Richie Halversen's book, darkness will not overcome. All right, everyone, please let Danny know how much you appreciate his testimony. And yes, we're going to be praying for you, Brother Danny. And we're celebrating with you, coming up on 10 years of being sober. Continue to progress as you journey through this recovery. All right. God bless you all. Thank you all so much for spending time with us. Tomorrow night, we'll join back again for another testimony. Tomorrow night at 7:30, you hear another person who also have been unchained. Good night, everyone, and God bless.
Thanks, everybody, for letting me join. It's been a thorough, eye-opening experience, and the camaraderie with the church and the organization and everything has brought a big smile to my face. So thanks for putting up with me.
All right. God bless everyone. Good night. Good night.
Thank you all.